Kinasuhan ho namin o ang kaso po na final ay plunder. And meron din ho violation of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. But principally, it's for plunder. At ang mga pinapakasuhan ho namin o yung rini-recommend ho namin sa ombudsman para kasuhan ng plunder ay ang mga sumusunod. Former President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, former Executive Secretary Eduardo Ermita, former Agrarian Reform Secretary Naser Pangandaman, former Agrarian Reform Undersecretary Narciso Nieto, Director of the DAR Finance and Management Service and OIC Undersecretary of the DAR Finance Management Administration Office, Teresita Panlilio, presently OIC of the Presidential Agrarian Reform Council Secretariat, or PARC, former Budget and Management Secretary, now Congressman Rolando Andaya Jr., Budget and Management Undersecretary Mario Relampagos, Candaba Mayor Rene Maglangke, Angelita Cacananta of DAR, Nilda Bawi of DAR, Dominador Season Jr. of DAR, Ronaldo Venancio of DAR. Rinirecommend din po namin para kasuhan ng plunder ay ang mga sumusunod na Napoles NGO presidents and employees: Evelyn De Leon, Jesus Castillo of Dalangpan Sang Amon Utod Kag Kasimanwa Foundation, Lilian Espanyol of Saganang Buhay sa Aten Foundation Inc., Genevieve Uy, Kasaganahan para sa Foundation Inc., Ronald John Lim, Ginintuang Alay sa Magsasaka Foundation Inc., at nephew po siya ni Janet Napoles, Ronald Eulogio Rodriguez, Gintong Pangkabuhayan Foundation Inc., Lorna Ramirez, Masaganang Buhay Foundation Inc., Ronald Francisco Lim, Micro Agri-Business Citizens Initiative Foundation Inc., kapatid po siya ni Janet Napoles, Simplicio Gumafelix of Karangyaan para sa Magbubukid Foundation Inc., and John Raymond de Asis, Kaupdanan para sa Mangunguma Foundation Inc. Also included in the complaint for plunder are Janet Lim Napoles and Ruby Tuason. Bukod po sa plunder, ay pinapakasuhan din po namin for violation of Section 3B of Republic Act 3019 as amended, or the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. Si Naser Pangandaman pa rin po, Narciso Nieto, and Teresita Panlilio. At para naman po sa violation of Sections 3E, G, and J of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act and the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees, again, Naser Pangandaman, Narciso Nieto, Teresita Panlilio, Angelita Cacananta, Nilda Bawi, Dominador Season Jr., Ronald Venancio. At violation naman po of Section 4 of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act and Article 172 of the Revised Penal Code, Janet Lim Napoles and Evelyn De Leon. Base po sa investigasyon ng NBI, as spearheaded by the Special Task Force of the NBI, from the overall, or from the totality of the evidence, ay nakita po ng NBI yung detailed picture of the modus operandi used by Napoles in order to take the 900 million in public funds allotted to DAR and eventually pocket after distributing kickbacks to the public officials involved. Napoles was able to get wind of the available funds from DAR as early as July 2009, or 2 to 3 months before the issuance of EO 848, by then President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, releasing funds from DOE SAGF 151. Ito po yung pondo to implementing agencies. In preparation for cornering these available DAR funds, kasi nalaman ho kaagad niya na meron palang 900 million, Napoles directed her JLN staff to manufacture the necessary documents for submission to the DAR, including fake letter requests from mayors whose farmer beneficiaries are supposed to be the recipients of projects financed by the 900 million fund. These were followed with fake MOAs supposedly entered into between the Napoles NGOs, the LGUs, and the DAR, where the signature of the mayor was always forged. So lahat po nung mga mayors dito, 97 all in all, na po sa investigasyon na wala silang kinalaman kasi finorge lang yung kanilang mga signature. The MOAs were then signed by DAR Undersecretary Nieto, and the checks corresponding to the amounts requested in the fake letter request and MOAs were processed and released to the Napoles NGOs. So, sa MOA, yung fake na signature ay yung sa mayor, pero genuine yung signature ng DAR Undersecretary Nieto. The checks were then deposited by the NGOs, and once cleared, the amount in cash is withdrawn and remitted directly to Napoles. Thereafter, the JLN employees produced fund utilization reports and liquidation documents, again which are all manufactured for submission to the DAR. The signatures of the mayors in all these liquidation documents were likewise forged by the JLN employees. The lists of farmer beneficiary recipients were also manufactured. So in sum, the DAR Malampaya Fund projects intended to rehabilitate farmer beneficiary victims supposedly of typhoon Ondoy and Pepeng were all ghost projects with no delivery whatsoever. Now sa plunder po. As a result of this whole scheme of diverting the 900 million Malampaya Fund allotted to DAR to the Napoles NGOs on the basis of manufactured and fake letter requests from mayors and MOAs, kickbacks or commissions amounting to 337,775,000 pesos were distributed all around to the public officials who participated in the plunder scheme. The following are the public officials specifically identified by the whistleblowers as having received kickbacks or commissions from Napoles, the same being their share of their indispensable participation in the execution of the plunder scheme. Naser Pangandaman, 75 million pesos received in cash from Napoles and through bank withdrawal, care of Rene Maglanque. Teresita Panlilio, 14 million pesos received in cash and through bank withdrawal. Narciso Nieto, 6 million pesos received through bank withdrawal, care of Evelyn De Leon. And Ruby Tuason, 242,775,000 received through bank withdrawals for a still unidentified principal. So we're still trying to actually trace kung kanino napunta o sino ang principal ni Ruby Tuason, because it appears that she was an agent. The rest of the DBM and DAR officials, we are recommending for prosecution, participated and conspired in this scheme by facilitating the irregular release of the 900 million Malampaya Fund to DAR and the processing of the check payments to Napoles NGOs, despite the fact that all documents pertaining to the award of said projects to the Napoles NGOs were all manufactured and fake, and the projects were all ghost projects with zero delivery. As a result of the conspiratorial acts conspiratorial acts of the DBM and DAR officials with Napoles. Said conspirators pocketed the amount or total value of 900 million, supposedly intended for the, quote, relief operations, rehabilitation, reconstruction, and other works and services to areas affected by natural calamities as mentioned in the October 13, 2009 letter of then Executive Secretary Eduardo Ermita to Secretary Rolando Andaya Jr. These acts constitute misuse, if not misappropriation and malversation of public funds, the commission of which would not have been possible were it not for the participation and consent of the concerned public officials of DBM and DAR, resulting in the accumulation of ill-gotten wealth in the form of kickbacks or commissions amounting to more than 50 million pesos with respect to Secretary Pangandaman and Ruby Tuason, again, the latter in representation of a still unidentified conspirator. We believe that the elements are present in this case. As to the participation and culpability of former President Arroyo and former Executive Secretary Ermita, the release of the SARO and the NCA would not have been possible were it not for the hastily issued EO, which invalidly liberalized the exploitation of the Malampaya Fund for purposes not contemplated by existing laws, and the latter's approval, Executive Secretary Ermita's approval, of the request for authority of Secretary Andaya. Napansin po namin na mas nauna po yung request for the authorization for the use and access to the Malampaya Fund. It was October 8, 2009. Mas nauna po dun sa pag-issue ng Executive Order 848, which was issued on October 13, 2009. So an October 8, 2009 request for authorization for the use of such fund was justified and granted on the basis of an October 13, 2009 executive order. The request ceded the existence of the legal basis for the making of any such request in the first place. We believe that the former president and the former executive secretary used EO 848 for the approval of a request made 5 days before the issuance of the executive order. Kaya sa tingin po namin, sabit rin po sila. The lack of specificity in former President Arroyo's and former Executive Secretary Ermita's identification of the authorized purpose by which DBM can access the Malampaya Fund resulted in the almost discretionary, if not arbitrary, granting of implementing agency requests for millions of pesos in funds by the DBM without the submission of any agency work or development plan showing that the funds will actually be used for the purpose authorized by the President. This leniency of control displayed by the former President in the use of and access to an essentially presidential discretionary fund made possible the plunder of such fund, either intentionally or through gross inexcusable negligence. Doon po nag-umpisa pala, nagulat din nga po kami na yung EO 848 ay in-issue several days after the letter request corresponding to that 900 million na katulad nung sinabi ko po, July pa lang ay natunugan na kaagad ni Mrs. Napoles na para sa mga calamity, and yung calamity, yung dalawang calamity dito, yung typhoon Ondoy and Pepeng ay nangyari September of 2009. So, magagaling po talaga sila. Okay, so, meron po kaming ilang kopya dito, both ng executive summary. Wag muna kayong pumunta dito, makikita kayo sa TV na nag-aagawan na naman kayo. Pa-distribute ko na lang.